It's been 6 years since the Korea-EU Free Trade Agreement was signed. Since then, the European Union has forged even closer ties with Korea in the fields of education, science and technology, and climate change.
We make a visible sign to give the city back to the citizens, changing a bridge which is used by cars, a bridge which will be used by people walking.
The EU delegation in Korea is representing some 512 million people in 28 member nations. Let's meet Ambassador Michael Reiterer leading the EU delegation on today's Heart to Heart. On today's Heart to Heart, we're joined with Ambassador of the EU delegation to Korea, Ambassador Michael Reiterer. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to say hello to our viewers that are watching?
Well, thanks for having me, and hello, 안녕하세요 to all Koreans watching in Asia, in the United States, I hope also in Europe, and those here in Korea who enjoy listening to English spoken with a German, Austrian accent.
Mm-hmm. Well, welcome once again. Thank you so much for joining us. And that's 안녕하세요, hello in Korean. Now, although many Koreans and just people in general may know that each European country has its own embassy in Korea, some may not be familiar with the embassy of the EU. So could you first of all begin by telling us what you mainly focus on?
Well, you ask a very permanent question. We are this asked very often, but the 28 member states of the European Union have come together and worked together. And wherever we have decided to work together, we are trying to have one opinion. Mm-hmm. And then there is somebody who should express that one opinion.
Yes.
Let me give you an example which is concrete. Mm-hmm. The free trade agreement, because trade between Europe and Korea is very important. So when Korea was negotiating 7-8 years ago, the free trade agreement with the European Union, it could not negotiate with Germany, with France, with Italy, with Austria, with Finland, mm-hmm. but with the European Commission. One negotiating for all. So what I should do here now is, for example, to make sure that we implement this free trade agreement well. Mm-hmm. Then we decide common positions where all 28 agreed. A few days ago, the foreign ministers of the European Union have agreed on a position on North Korea. So we have one position, and I can give that position, and I'm supported by my member states.
I see. Now, you just mentioned something about the free trade agreement. So this year marks the 6th year of the conclusion of the Korea-EU Free Trade Accord. And the EU has forged very close economic and political ties with Korea. What are the key pending issues for the EU embassy in Korea?
Well, first, Korea is our 8th largest trading partner, mm-hmm. so quite important. And in implementing the free trade agreement, I can say we're making actually quite good progress. The increase in the last 6 years was about 28%. Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of jobs. That's what we all need. So we are quite happy with the agreement. So I don't have to say I want to change everything. Mm-hmm. I want to improve it. Yes, we have some shortcomings. For example, Korean consumers cannot get all the good cheeses from Europe because there are some import restrictions. I think you would also enjoy some European beef, for example. Mm-hmm. But in the goods sector, I think most of the 99% of products come in without any fees, without any customs duties. So yes. It makes it cheaper for the consumer, and therefore we have a good, sound relationship. And Korea is a good partner. Mm-hmm. We believe in multilateral trade and not just cozy bilateral deals.
Mm-hmm. And recently, the EU has experienced some trouble with its members with Brexit and legal actions against Poland and Hungary. So how do you mediate the differing opinions among these nations?
Well, again, the European Union is built on what we call the rule of law. So if Brexit,
Yes.
the UK took a vote, they want to leave. So it was simple to write a letter, we want to leave the European Union. In other countries, continents, if somebody wants to leave, you start wars, revolutions, whatever. In the case of the European Union, a letter, and now we will start negotiations. And we have agreed in our constitution, we could call it, in our treaties, which values we want to perform. And if somebody is not pursuing the values in the manner that the others think, again, we have a discussion, and if we can't agree, we go to the European Court of Justice, and the European Court of Justice will take a decision.
Now, climate change is a global concern, and it definitely has emerged as a crucial global issue. I heard that many EU policies are influenced by climate change concerns. So could you tell us about a few of the EU countermeasures against climate change?
Well, I think I can claim that the European Union has been a champion of fighting climate change. We have worked hard to come to the Paris Agreement. We have worked with our partners, and luckily Korea was a very good and efficient partner to sign the agreement. And now we have to implement the agreement. Even if some countries want to leave, those who stay have to work harder. And we have given ourselves very ambitious targets. By 2020, minus 20% of emission gases. We also want to have more renewable energies. We want to increase efficiency, so we have more research and, in that area. We have a huge program, research program with Korean participation. And I think that's the best way to make a contribution. But having the Paris Agreement is good. Implementing is essential.
I heard that all the EU delegation employees drive electric cars. Is that true?
All I wished, but my official car, you're right, is an electric car. And I think it makes a contribution not to produce any gases in downtown.
We rarely do this. We usually stay in the studio to continue our talk, but if it's okay with you, could we step outside to where your car is and continue our talk in your car perhaps? Is that okay?
Okay, if you wish, you're very welcome.
Yes, we'd love to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Competitions where
competition about
for the journalists?
The journalists.
Oh, there it is. It says EU.
Yes.
The color.
Yellow stars, 12 stars of the European Union.
Oh, and that.
And, well, you know, that's a little secret of diplomatic protocol. If the flag is flying, the ambassador is in the car. Otherwise, you're not allowed to fly it. So we can fly together.
Can I see the inside of the car, the interior?
Okay. You want to hop in?
May I? Oh,
Sure.
Thank you. In your car, in an electric vehicle, and really it's amazingly quiet. I can hardly hear the engine running. I could hear the rain, actually.
Yes. The rain is much louder than the
true,
car.
Yes. Wow. So we're actually just going to go around this area and return to our studio, but since we're in your car, in an electric car, what would you say are the merits of an electric vehicle?
Well, electric vehicle has less pollution. It doesn't have CO2 exhaust and hardly any noise, so no noise pollution. And I think it is also a symbol, a signal. If you talk about environment protection, if you fight against climate change, you have to do something, and driving an electric car is a contribution. And it is not problematic, even if there are not too many stations to recharge, because in a day you normally drive 50 to 80 kilometers, and the battery can do that.
The battery can do more than one day.
Well, they normally recharge overnight to be on the safe side.
So, of course, there are merits, the advantages of owning an electric car, but there are the downsides as well. As of now, there aren't many recharging stations in Korea, but we're seeing more and more of them. And I'm actually seeing many more people driving electric cars. Now, let's talk about a special event that was held. On June 3rd and 4th, the EU delegation hosted a very special event that recently opened, the Seoul 1717. It's known as the Euro Village event. So please tell us about this.
Well, that was something where we happily joined in because the idea of the Mayor Park was a very good one. He took a bridge which was built for cars and gave it back to the people, to the pedestrians. They put flowers, they put trees, and so we liked that idea, and therefore we participated with all the member states. We had the Euro Village. All member states presented themselves and what they are doing to preserve the environment.
Oh, I see.
Very good interaction. All the people coming by, they engaged. There were games. And for me at the time, that was the first time that I had really the possibility to interact with normal Koreans. Normal meaning not officials, not...
just ordinary people
ordinary
like me.
People. Fishing for compliments. No, but that was very, very nice, and I think we will do something like this again. And to pass on also the message and support the message, make a city livable.
Yes.
And that means fewer cars or clean cars and more greenery.
Yeah.
We want to make a visible sign that protecting the environment, fighting climate change is something for everybody. And I think this sign is even more important nowadays, today, if we take into consideration what we have learned only a few days ago, and all those believing in fight against climate change have to work together, and I'm glad that we have a partner in you.
서울로 2017을 시민들이 굉장히 기다려왔던 그런 프로젝트인 것 같습니다. 이제 자동차가 중심인 도시에서 사람이 중심인 그런 도시로 변해가고 있는 하나의 커다란 상징적 사건이었습니다.
Now, I also heard that there was several competitions held prior to this event, and on the bridge you were able to see poems and I guess arts, like pictures, drawings, paintings that were actually displayed.
Photos. Yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, you always have to try to make something visible, visualize, and therefore we came up with these ideas. We invited through the internet as many as possible to participate, and then I had a lot of fun when the winners came to the delegation to my office. 9-year-old boy who was a little bit shy at the beginning, but then I gave him a bustle and some sweets, so then it was okay. And a very charming student from the university, she had won with a poem about environmental protection.
So the competition was related to protecting the environment,
yes,
as well as climate change. And to my knowledge, there is an environmental campaign in which just ordinary people, as you mentioned, like me, anyone can take part in, and it's called the Loud for Earth campaign. So tell us about this Loud for Earth campaign.
Well, Loud for Earth means if many people come together, you can make noise. That's loud. But what it means in environmental terms is if everybody makes a small contribution, it adds up to a total to loud noise. That was the image. And the invitation was to send innovative short videos what the individual person can do in order to make a contribution. So you close the tap, you use public transport, you recycle. So all small things which you could do, and sometimes you simply don't think about it.
Yes.
And so we visualized that, and then we had an artist who was putting all these things together and put some music with it.
Oh.
So I think it's an interesting exercise, and we will have one more go for that.
This is 주한EU! 텀블러 사용해야죠.
Get to drive in the car. Really is the first time ever on Heart to Heart that we actually got the chance to step out of the studio. So yes, I'm going to enjoy this ride in this wonderful electric car. And we'll perhaps continue our talk in the studio.
Okay, sure.
Okay. All right. So we are back in our studio. It's dry here. It's no longer wet, but that was a very fun experience. I'd like to talk about what you have been involved in, the projects you have been involved in. So since you arrived in Korea early this year, you've been involved in many, many different projects. And one of them was where you actually visited schools in Korea. So a while ago, you visited middle and high schools in Seoul as part of the EU Goes to School program. So could you tell us about this program and also what it was like to meet the students? How were they?
Well, the program is a joint program. All my colleagues, all the EU ambassadors go to 3 schools a year. So we do more than 60 schools a year. Why are we doing that? Well, I think it's always good to personalize a little bit. So students are then very eager, they can talk to somebody. And I made very good experience. Both schools I did, they were well prepared.
I see.
They had questions prepared. They had prepared interpreters themselves.
Oh.
They were very enthusiastic and had very difficult questions sometimes, I must say. And then, of course, being in Korea, we took pictures together and everything. Some of them suddenly wanted autographs. It was a very, very good experience because you could feel for them it was a chance to do something different, something new, and perhaps to see somebody who is not the teacher. That might also play a role. And then I invite, the European Union, like any state, we have a national day. In our case, it's the 9th of May, where we remember the treaties of Rome, which were signed 60 years ago. And I invited students whom I had visited to come to that reception.
Oh.
And I think that was a good experience for them. They have never been at a diplomatic reception.
Yes.
And my guest of honor was the Speaker of the Parliament, who was very friendly, so they could take pictures with him. So I think probably the first time that they ever met him in person. So therefore, it's not only making an experience about the European Union possible, but also how the European Union interacts with Korea. And the Speaker of the Parliament is one of the highest ranking officials in Korea.
Sounds like you provided the students with a very memorable and very valuable experience.
Well, it's a little bit give and take.
Now let's talk about the advanced educational system. It's known to be world famous in Europe, very advanced. And based on your experience at those schools, what did you think, or what do you think is the biggest difference between the educational systems between Korea and the educational system in Europe?
Well, what I hear, I didn't make this experience with the students because they were so joyful, but I hear there's a lot of pressure for exams, exam hell. You have to go through entrance exams for universities. So we have some exams in Europe, but I think there's much less pressure, and it depends what you want to study, whether you have to go through an exam. I think we also have a strong focus on vocational training, so that you learn something practical, but you get a theoretical education at the same time.
I see.
I always like to give the example. I mean, if I come home and my basement is flooded, there's no point in calling the doctor. I need somebody who can fix my problem with the water pipes. So you need both, and I think this is something which we promote very strongly, and perhaps the university students normally enjoy very much at university. They do their exams, but sometimes we have to introduce time limits and say, okay, within 6 years, you have to finish your fun, otherwise it doesn't work. That's a little bit exaggerated, but there is a difference, I think. Yeah.
Now, you are originally from Austria, and you started working as a diplomat in 1982. You've served in several places, in Côte d'Ivoire, Japan, Belgium, and Switzerland. This was all before you came to Korea this February. So what are your impressions of Korea so far after being here for 6 months, is it?
Yeah, half a year. Well, it was very intensive, six months. When I came, that was impeachment. There were demonstrations, then there were new elections. And then there were many of the events we have talked about, like Gateway, the schools. I made trips in the country. One was very memorable because I also wanted to show that the European Union is not only an economic animal, but we are also involved in politics, in security politics, because the security of Asia and the security of Europe is linked. And therefore we are running a military operation off the Horn of Africa by the name of Atalanta to fight piracy. And this is an undertaking where the Korean Navy is participating. So I went to Busan and I waved goodbye when the destroyer was leaving, and I'm looking forward to go there again when they're coming back to welcome them back.
Oh, I see.
So that was also just to make it visible that we are also in politics, in security politics, and together with Korea. So there is the security problem of North Korea, but we also have to work in other areas.
Right. Could you also tell us about your future plans as the EU ambassador to Korea? Your nearest future plans, what do you hope to do?
Well, I think I have to work harder to make the EU better known and understood. We have tried to do that a little bit, to explain what we are doing. I would like to do more people-to-people contacts. So EU goes to school, EU goes to university. I would like to work more, perhaps also with journalists, that they understand better how we work. And I will try to learn some Korean. That would also help me in interacting with Koreans.
Okay. Well, I had a wonderful time. I enjoyed the talk that we had, and I'd like to thank you so much for joining us today on Heart to Heart.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I brought you a little present.
Oh.
We were talking about EU goes to school.
Yes.
So what I bring the students is something to write and to take note. Wood, economically sustainable, and a notebook with all the member states of the European Union.
Here it is, yes. Okay, I have to show our viewers what I've received. Thank you so much. Wow, okay, and this is like a notebook. Okay, I'll fill it with many, many memories and a lot of work.
When you travel to Europe.
When I travel to Europe. The next time I travel to Europe. Thank you so much once again, and I hope that you fulfill the things that you're set to do during the remainder of your stay. Once again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.